Despite natural disasters, the Australian economy is in great shape. We've got low unemployment, a very strong investment pipeline, and of course a strong public budget position. That stands in contrast to many other countries in the developed world, but they've certainly had an impact on the economy, but it's not affected the resolve of the Australian people, nor affected the underlying strength of our economy. Our economy is in good shape. There's no doubt that the value of the dollar reflects a relatively strong performance of the Australian economy as against other developed economies. I think it also reflects commodity prices across the board and also has a little to do with the value of the US dollar. But the Australian dollar is fundamentally strong because the Australian economy is fundamentally strong. Despite those natural disasters which have had a big impact in localised areas, our economy is strong and there is still a very big investment pipeline coming along. Well, I think the G20 needs to continue the cooperation and determination that it showed during the global financial crisis so we can have sustained and strong growth through the recovery. There will be some important items on the agenda here, particularly when it comes to the framework for strong and sustained and balanced growth. There will be discussions about indicators that we might adopt so we can measure the health of the global economy and individual countries. And I think there'll also be a discussion about those policies required in the future to reduce global economic imbalances. Well, I'm not going to preempt the outcome of the discussions that we're going to have through this evening and through tomorrow. I'm sure that we'll have a mature discussion about all of these matters. The most important thing is that we see goodwill and a determination to put in place policy frameworks for the future which reduce global economic imbalances. I think the Managing Director of the IMF has said recently that we are seeing the re-emergence of financial imbalances, and I think we do need to take that issue pretty seriously. That's why we're having this discussion about imbalances in the economy. That's why we embarked on this course of action last year to put in place a framework so we could not only have a mature discussion about them, but also a discussion about the structural changes that are required country by country to reduce those imbalances. Well, we'll be having a discussion about the future of the monetary system, and that is certainly one factor which will get an airing at these meetings, but there'll be many others. What we've seen over recent months is there's been disruption to food supplies caused by floods, not just in our country, but in many other countries around the world. And I don't know there's much the G20 can do about those climatic factors, but they are a substantial cause of increased food prices. There's going to be continued strong demand for Australian commodities for some time to come, and that's just not a product of strong growth in China. It's a product of very, very strong growth throughout the Asian region. And the Asian region is more than China, it's more than India, it's countries like Indonesia, it's countries like Thailand, it's countries like South Korea. That's a very important part of the demand for commodities and of the price story that we've just been talking about. Australia is a very open country when it comes to trade. We're very open to the rest of the world, and we do export not only raw materials but also services and some manufactured products. And we continually engage, particularly in our region, to ensure that trade between our countries grows. It's something that we value greatly. It's of great benefit not just to Australia but to the region. I think the most important thing that we've got to do is to lift global growth across the board. We can't just be having a discussion about shifting growth from one region to another. We've got to ensure that everybody recovers. We've got to ensure that that high level of unemployment in the developed world is dealt with. We've also got to ensure that some of our poorest peoples benefit from economic growth. What that requires is a commitment to growth across the board, not just a debate about particular policies in particular regions. Well, China's a very important part of the global economy, and they're a very important part of our discussions at the G20. They're involved in a discussion about the need for structural change across all economies, including their own, and they have openly acknowledged that they need to do more to rebalance their economy towards domestic consumption, to invest more in social safety nets and so on. They're all important structural reforms that are going on in China right now.